We're now going to begin with the question period. Nous allons commencer avec la période de questions. First question, Gabrielle.
CTV News, thank you for taking our questions. The American ambassador told CTV's Power Play today that pulling out of the F-35 deal would threaten NORAD. Do you agree, and do you have an update on the F-35 plans?
The second part of your question, the review of the F-35 contract is ongoing. There's many factors that come into that. Interoperability, so that would relate to the NORAD element there. Value for money, broader Canadian industrial impacts, all of those are factors that are under consideration. So it's, I didn't see the ambassador's specific comments, but those are factors that are part of an ongoing review of the contract.
The ambassador also said that there haven't been formal talks on the Golden Dome. Should Canada take part in that project, and how much would you be willing to spend on that?
Okay, well, I'm not going to put a price tag on the second part of your question. I think I'll say the following about the situation with air defense or ballistic missile defense, intercontinental ballistic missile defense, broader defense against, including potential missiles that in the not too distant future could come from space. I mean, these are some of the threats that our nation faces. We take those threats seriously. We take our responsibilities as a government seriously, as I just said. It's one of the reasons why we made the commitment back in March for the over-the-horizon radar, the first phase of the over-horizon radar system, and that was an independent decision that we took. We are conscious that we have an ability, if we so choose, to complete the Golden Dome with investments and partnership. And it's something that we are looking at and something that has been discussed at a high level, but I'm not sure one negotiates on this. These are military decisions that are then taken in that context. And we will evaluate it accordingly. Thank you.
Next question.
Ronnie McKenzie-Gray with Global News. During the election, you were very public in saying that the old relationship that Canada has with the U.S. is over. You said that Donald Trump is trying to break us so he can own us. But now, just a couple weeks after the election, there's conversations, at least, about further integrating the Canadian military with the U.S. about the Golden Dome. What do you say to Canadians who voted for you based on your elbows and mentality with the Americans?
Well, first, one of the reasons why we're having more constructive discussions with the Americans is because we are demonstrating our ability that we have choices. We have choices economically. We have choices with respect to our defense. I'll give you several examples to back that up. Maybe I'll step away from the economics. Mr. Gray, you've probably heard enough of me on that, so I will talk about defense for a moment. With respect to the F-35, it was raised a moment ago. We have alternatives for the F-35 for the back end of that. European alternatives that we could pursue. We have to weigh them in the best interests of Canada. That's how we will evaluate it. With respect to broader defense, whether it's air, sea, land, cyber, we have other partnerships that we can strike. And one of the things, as you will have heard, but I'll repeat, that we have been discussing with our European partners is becoming a full partner of Rearm Europe, Safe Europe, different acronyms for a major relationship that we can have that gives us diversification, new partners, new options, better value for money, potentially more domestic Canadian economic benefits. So all of that exists in parallel to potential opportunities with the U.S. And the way I would characterize the change in the relationship, and I stood in this room and made those comments the first time, and I'm very clear, and I absolutely repeat them today, which is we had for almost half a century, we as Canada, a relationship with the Americans which were a steady process of deepening integration. Deepening integration in economics. We went from free trade deal through to CUSMA, deepening integration in military aspects. And that process of deepening integration is over. We are in a position now where we cooperate when necessary, but not necessarily cooperate. So we have other options for that cooperation. We are pursuing those other options. You will see a very different set of partnerships, security and economic, going forward. But to be absolutely clear, when it is in Canada's interests, first best interest, to cooperate with the Americans, to strike deals with the Americans, relationships, and particularly in examples like ballistic missile defense, that may be the best option, and if so, we will pursue that.
On the point of further integration, you said on Sunday in Rome, it's prudent to diversify our defense partnerships when there are questions of sovereignty at issue. Why would we even want to have conversations about further integration militarily when you said just 4 days ago that the Americans have questions of our sovereignty?
What? I'm trying to recall the comments to which you're referring to.
Last question to Eric at the...
When
you were talking about the...
forgive me, you can furnish me with the transcript, but there is, as we know, the President has expressed on multiple occasions a wish for, I'm not going to repeat the phrase, I never repeat the phrase, but a wish for something to happen. That is never going to happen. That is understood, increasingly understood. The wish still exists, but the reality is different. First point. Second point, there are cases where it is in our interest to be integrated with the U.S. market. The automobile sector. My entire life, our automobile sector has been integrated with the U.S. The Auto Pact was struck the year I was born. There are elements of our security relationship where it can make sense, but not all elements of our economic relationships or our security relationships does it make sense, and we are actively and aggressively pursuing alternatives.
Prochaine question. Radio.
Bonjour, Juliane Lapointe de Radio-Canada. J'aimerais vous entendre en français.
Juliane Lapointe, Radio-Canada. I'd like to hear you say whether you think it's a good idea to be involved in the Golden Dome. Donald Trump seemed to indicate that Canada called to express interest. Is that what happened? Regarding the discussions with the U.S. on the Golden Dome, there have been discussions ongoing for a number of years. They've been held among military and security officials and from both countries. The President and I have had a number of discussions about the Golden Dome concept. Is it a good idea for Canada? Yes, it's a good idea to have protection against missiles in place for Canadians. From now on, there are threats. There will be threats. There are threats now coming from South Korea, China. There are genuine threats facing Canada, and we have a choice. Do we establish protection for our cities, for our countries? And that has to be done. Is Canada going to be doing this alone or with the United States? Because with a Golden Dome, there will be decisions that could have an impact on Canada. But Canada wouldn't be a part of them, so there are a number of considerations. These are discussions to be held together. When you talk about protecting Canada with a Golden Dome, would we be more involved in detecting missiles, or would we have a proactive role in missile interception? We clearly need to be more proactive because, from the time you see a missile, there's not much time. So what's the point of saying there's a missile? You have 30 seconds to, do something about it. That's not good enough. We need to change the policy. Le Devoir. You've talked about threats to Canada, but you didn't add the U.S. to the list of threats. You said that President Donald Trump was threatening our workers and our families. Is President Trump a threat, or isn't he? Yes, I said that on January 31st, probably in February and March and last week as well, because there is an economic threat that is being caused by the tariff war, and the tariff war is continuing. We are now having discussions to find a way out of this tariff war and to find tariff peace. But for now, yes, there is an American threat, an economic threat. You also said that President Trump is a transformative president, and you said that there are positive and negative transformations. Do you have any example of a positive transformation that he's brought about? Well, for a number of years, he's been clearer on risks involving geopolitical competition from China. He has changed U.S. geostrategic policy, including the geostrategic policy that President Biden had in place. He is clearer on existing risks in a number of areas around the world.
Aspect of President Trump's transformation, and my example was, and I was starting from his first presidency, about clarity about geopolitical and economic competition from China. And I think we have seen that but that intensified through the Biden administration, the reaction to that. So he was right about that. There's been a reaction to that that has changed aspects of the game, and there are other aspects like that. Wait.
Hi, Prime Minister. Marina von Stackelberg with CBC News. Did you speak to U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance this weekend about putting that statement out with the U.K. and France against Israel expanding its military operations in Gaza? And was the U.S. supportive of you releasing this statement?
I advised the Vice President that we probably were going to say something. I didn't ask, it was a one-way conversation. I advised the Vice President of that. J'ai mentionné.
I said to the U.S. Vice President that Canada, France, and the UK, and I was there with the UK Foreign Minister for a few minutes, and with the Deputy Prime Minister of the UK. I said that this announcement was very likely the announcement on Gaza, but this was not a conversation. I provided him with the information.
It wasn't a conversation. Sorry. Switch language. It wasn't a conversation. I informed him it wasn't anything more than that.
Did he give you a reaction?
I just said it wasn't a conversation. So.
If Israel continues to deny aid and expand military operations in Gaza, part of what your statement was about, what concrete action will Canada take, and what kind of sanctions will it include?
Well, that will, I very much, the purpose of the statement, the intention of the clear language is not just of ourselves, but of France, of the United Kingdom, many other countries, is that Israel ensures that adequate humanitarian aid gets to the population there, many of whom are on the brink of starvation. Well, j'ai compris la question.
I understood the question. We will make that decision. but it is up to the government of Israel to act.
Evening, Catherine Lévesque, National Post. I wanted to get your opinion on the Reform Act. You might have seen, but a few of your MPs say it's nothing against you, but they want to have the power to trigger a leadership review if things go south, maybe in a couple of years. Are you comfortable with this idea?
Is that a prediction, Catherine? I mean, what is
never
it?
know.
A little confidence.
Are you comfortable with that idea so early in your mandate?
Well, I would say the following, which is that, the Reform Act, all parties in Parliament, all recognized parties in Parliament are bound by the Reform Act. It's the law of the land. And therefore, there are these 4 votes consistent with the Reform Act that will take place. They'll take place at the first caucus meeting, which is Sunday. So it's just...
that idea.
Well, I observe that this will happen. There'll be these votes.
And just really quickly, I wanted to get your reaction on the IDF who fired some shots at some Canadian diplomats. Does that change your stance on Israel? Should we impose sanctions?
Well, the Israeli ambassador has been summoned to Global Affairs to see the minister and explain. We expect a full investigation. We expect a immediate explanation of what happened. It's totally unacceptable. It's some of many things that are totally unacceptable that's going on in the region. C'est absolument pas acceptable.
That's absolutely unacceptable. And it is the responsibility of the Israeli ambassador to provide an explanation to us. And it is the responsibility of the Israeli government to provide an explanation for this. This is another example of unacceptable actions. Thank you.